The goal for today is to solve proportions by cross-multiplying. Okay, now you've already solved some proportions. Let's say I give you a problem, 2 over 3 equals blank over 18. And you had to figure out that missing number to complete your proportion. So you had to look at the first fraction and you say, well, how do I get from the first fraction to the second one? What would I have to multiply 3 by to get to 18? So it would be times 6. And if I multiply the denominator by 6, I have to multiply the numerator by 6. So 2 times 6 would be 12. Okay, so this works well for some proportions. Okay, it works well because I can see how many times 3 goes into 18. But there are some problems. Let's say I had like 2.7 over 3.4 equals blank over 18.1. Okay, and you say, well, I don't know how to get from 3.4 to 18.1. Well, in some problems like this, okay, to find that missing number, we're going to do some algebra. Okay, so they'll have a variable instead of a blank spot in that missing part. Okay, and then we're going to use something called cross-multiplying today to help solve proportions like this. Okay, so here's our first example. We have n over 8 on the left, and we have 12 over 16 on the right. Okay, so this method is only used for proportions, okay, when you have two fractions that are equal. Okay, so you can think of a proportion as fractions that are equal. Okay, so here I have two fractions and I have an equal sign in between them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply diagonally. I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to do 8 times 12. I'm going to write that answer on the right side of the equal sign. Okay, so first you have to bring down your equal sign. 8 times 12 is 96. And 16 times n, so I'm going to multiply diagonally the other way, and I'm going to write that on the left side of the equal sign. Okay, so 16 times n, I have a number and a variable. Okay, I can't really multiply those. I'm going to write that as 16n. Okay, when I have a number and a letter next to each other, it means that they're being multiplied. Okay, so 16 times n, I'm going to write 16n. Okay, so now I have a new equation. I could ignore that whole top part. Okay, so I have 16 times some number equals 96. Okay, if you think back to 6th grade, how do we solve this? How do we get rid of multiplication? Well, if I want to turn that 16n into 1n, what would I have to divide by to turn a 16 into a 1? I'd have to divide by itself. Okay, and for an equation to keep the balance, you're going to divide both sides by that same number. Okay, on the left side, 16 divided by 16 is 1. Okay, that's what you wanted to do. You want 1n. Okay, so I'm going to write n over again. I don't have to write the 1 in front, because if I write the letter n, it means I have one of them. Okay, and then on the right, I have to do 96 divided by 16. So I would get 6 for my missing number. Okay, so first thing we did was cross multiply. Okay, we did 8 times 12, we got 96. We did 16 times n, and we got 16n. Don't forget to write the equal sign in between. And the last step, we divided by the number, or the coefficient, that was in front of the variable. And here it was the number 16. Okay, the reason why we did that is we didn't want to know 16 n's. We wanted to figure out 1. So how do we turn the 16 into a 1? Well, we divided by 16. Again, we did that to both sides of the equal sign. N equals 6 was our final answer. Okay, let's take a look at our second example. Again, you can only use this if you have a proportion. You have two fractions with an equal sign in between them. Okay, so I'm going to bring down that equal sign. I'm going to cross multiply. Okay, so k times 5, I'm going to write that on the right hand side. Okay, so k times 5 is 5k. I have a number and a variable. I just put them next to each other. On the other side, 15 times 3 is 45. Okay, so now I have a new equation. Okay, I'm ignoring the top part. This equation says 45 equals 5 times k. Okay, remember 5k is 5 times k. Well, how do I get rid of multiplication first? And I don't want 5k, I want 1k. So how do I turn that 5 into a 1? Well, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And to turn a 5 into a 1, I have to divide by 5. Okay, on the right-hand side, 5 over 5. I'm going to cross those out. Okay, that looks a little bit like an 8. Let me cross out the other way. Now I have 1. Okay, so on the right I have 1k. I don't have to write the 1. I'm just going to write the k. And on the left, 45 divided by 5 would be 9. Okay, so my final answer, k equals 9. Okay, let's do two more examples together. Okay, to solve a proportion, I can cross multiply. 30 times y is 30y. 4 times 18, okay, I'm going to take out my calculator. 4 times 18 is 72. Okay, one step left. I don't want 30y. The goal is to find out what y is. What is that missing number? Okay, so 30 times y. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. And to turn a 30 into a 1, I'm going to divide by 30. Okay, 30 divided by 30 is 1. 1 times y is just y. And 72 divided by 30, put that in my calculator, I'm getting 2.4. So your missing number is 2.4. All right, so that missing number on top that we were looking for, that's 2.4. Okay, let's look at one more before you try a couple. Proportions, I can cross multiply. Bring down your equal sign. 4 times 7, okay, I draw my arrow going up, is 28. 2.8 times x is 2.8x. Okay, now I'm looking at the left. I don't want 2.8x. I just want 1x. So how do I turn that into a 1? I'm going to have to divide by the same value. Okay, on the left side, I get 1x, which is what I'm trying to do. And 28 divided by 2.8 would be 10. Okay, please try to solve this one. Okay, here's your first step after you cross multiply. Okay, to turn 8c into 1c, opposite of 8 times c is to divide by 8. Final answer should have been 75. Okay, one last one for you to try. Cross multiply, 2,400 equals 30n. And I want 30n, I want 1n. Opposite of 30 times n is to divide by 30. Final answer, you should get n equals 80. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of word problems. Okay, Zach can read 7 pages of a book in 5 minutes. Okay, so the two numbers have to deal with pages and minutes. Okay, that's my ratio that I'm going to write. And he reads 7 pages in 5 minutes. At this rate, how long will it take him to read the entire 175-page book? Okay, so I'm going to make that equal to another fraction. 175 pages. Well, I put pages as my numerator, so I'm going to put that 175 as my numerator. I don't know the denominator, so I'm going to put a variable there. Okay, so I set up this proportion. Now we have to cross multiply. 5 times 175 and 7 times x. Okay, 5 times 175 should be 875. Instead of multiplying on the left, 7 times x, I'm going to divide out that 7. And on the right, I have to do 875 divided by 7. I get 125. Okay, so 125, look at my units, 125 minutes. Okay, this question is asking for hours and minutes. Well, 60 minutes is 1 hour, right? So another 60 minutes, that would be 2 hours. So that's 60 plus 60 is 120. All right, 60 minutes, 60 minutes. So I would need 5 more minutes to get up to 125. Okay, so 60 minutes is 1 hour. 60 minutes is another hour, plus 5 more minutes. So it would be 2 hours and 5 minutes. Okay, so 125 minutes or 2 hours and 5 minutes. Okay, let's do another word problem. The bicycle travels 50 feet for every 3 pedals. So we have feet and pedal turns. Okay, so 50 feet for every 3 pedal turns. How many pedal turns are needed to travel 1 mile? Okay, well, we're given feet, so we have to use this number, not the 1 mile number. Okay, so feet, I'm going to put in my numerator 5,280, and this bottom is my unknown. Okay, so on the left, 50 times x is 50x. On the right, 5,280, 5,280 times 3, 15,840. Last step, divide out that 50. And I'm getting 316.8. Okay, so you'd have to pedal 316.8 pedal turns. Right? Have to pedal that many times. Okay, so there are 2 for you to try. We'll read the first one together, and we'll set it up partially, and then you can finish it. Cookie recipe for 5 dozen cookies calls for 4 cups of flour. Okay, so we have dozen cookies, cups of flour. 5 dozen cookies needs 4 cups of flour. Reading the question, how much flour is needed to make 4 dozen cookies? Okay, so dozen cookies I put as my numerator. See if you can figure out that unknown. Cross multiplying, 5x equals 16, and you should have gotten 3.2 cups of flour. Okay, see if you can do this whole last one. Okay, comparing birdhouses to hours, I want to figure out how many hours for 30 birdhouses. Cross multiply, divide out that 12, you should have gotten x equals 20 hours.